Did you know your spinal cord is your direct connection to God's abundance? In fact, you can think of your spine as your abundance antenna, which means the key to manifesting unlimited wealth and abundance is sitting inside you right at this moment. All you have to do is turn it on, which is exactly what I'm going to share with you in this short video today. You see, I stumbled across this shocking discovery completely by accident myself, all thanks to a secret passageway in a Roman museum, where I discovered 33 pages of documents and a secret promise from Jesus Christ. Because the truth is, the neurons located in your spinal cord are the key to changing the trajectory of your life, starting as soon as today. And turning on your God-given manifestation abilities is as simple as can be, which is great news, since you don't have to worry about mastering the law of attraction, studying star charts, or learning about brainwaves, because enabling your abundance antenna is actually effortless, the way God intended it to be. And while that might sound a little too easy, try telling that to the thousands of people who've changed the trajectory of their lives with what I'm sharing with you in this short video. The good news is this works for everybody: Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims. In fact, you don't have to be religious, spiritual, or anything else for that matter. Heck, I was actually an atheist when I first discovered the shocking truth. I've since changed my views. More on that in a minute. So make sure you watch this short video all the way to the end today. When you do, it'll change your life forever. Allow me to take just a moment to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Peter Palmer, and frankly, me sharing this life-altering info with you today is the most unlikely of scenarios. You see, I was a hardcore atheist for most of my life. In fact, I was so obsessed with atheism, I planned on turning it into a career, which is why I decided at age 33 to go back to college in my hometown of Boston, Massachusetts. My plan was to get a master's degree in theology and Bible studies. After all, I only needed 33 credits to earn my master's. I wanted to be the expert on religion, just so I could debunk it all. I had dreams of writing a New York Times best-selling book promoting my ideas on atheism. I'd make the rounds on all the cable news shows, morning talk shows, and all the rest. I'd have my own television show and make a living discrediting religion. But the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, had other plans. And ultimately, it was one of my college courses that changed the very trajectory of my life. Not only changing the way I view the world, but also making me insanely wealthy in the process. You see, I was required to take a high-level course on the history of the Roman Empire. If you know anything about the story of Jesus, you'll remember that the Romans are the ones who crucified him. So for this course, we actually had to travel to Rome for 33 days to tour and study the ancient city up close. And it was that trip that changed everything for me. And as you'll see in just a minute, it'll change the course of your life too. The third day I was there, I managed to get separated from the tour group. We were touring the ruins of an old Roman building when suddenly I realized I was alone in a back room. I was amazed at some of the old architecture and was imagining what it must have been like there 2,000 years ago. But as I was leaning on one of the walls daydreaming, it suddenly gave way and I ended up flat on my bum. And let's just say I was not expecting what happened next. Because when I gathered myself and looked around, it appeared that I'd accidentally discovered a secret passageway. But what really caught me off guard was the startled man sitting inside the secret room. He was sitting on a stool in this dimly lit room, holding a handful of documents. I was afraid I'd stumbled into something I shouldn't have. But the man quickly ushered me inside and closed the door to the secret passageway. And that's where everything changed for me. The man's name was Marco, and he told me we had to stay in the secret hidden room until nightfall, several hours away. He said he simply couldn't risk giving away the location of the secret room. Obviously, I was stunned by the whole thing and intensely curious about the whole situation. At first, Marco was irritated and guarded, but after chatting for a bit, he started to warm up. As it turns out, Marco was also a former atheist, so we had plenty to chat about. Until finally, I worked up the courage to ask about the secret passage and the mysterious-looking documents he was clutching the whole time. We locked eyes and Marco let out a long sigh. He told me that he'd worked hard to keep all this a secret, but he also needed help. And it did seem like God had sent me there for a reason. So Marco decided to spill the beans right then and there. He told me that he worked as a janitor at the old museum. So he'd clean at night when the museum was closed and the tourists were gone. But one night, Marco stumbled upon something by accident, the secret passageway we were currently sitting in. But it wasn't so much the secret room that was so groundbreaking. It was the documents hidden within. Documents that the Roman government kept hidden until the fall of the Roman Empire, where they were forgotten about. There were 33 pages total, and they reveal the biggest scandal in human history. Here's what I mean. The Bible details every aspect of Jesus' life on earth, except for an entire 18-year time period that is missing entirely, when Jesus was 12 to 29 years old. And no one really quite knows what Christ did during those 18 missing years. But that isn't an accident. Truth is, Christ went to India to study Eastern spiritualism, including Buddhism and Hinduism. More specifically, he was studying at an isolated ancient Buddhist monastery in the town of Ladakh. But why? That part has been a carefully guarded secret for the past 2,000 years, until now. You see, what Christ was really doing those 18 lost years was devising a way for humans to manifest unlimited abundance from God, without any effort on our part. After all, God had punished man for his sins already after the incident with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, forcing mankind to work and suffer in exchange for any type of abundance. But that's the real reason God sent Jesus to earth, to change the way abundance works. So Jesus studied and planned with all the greatest Eastern spiritual leaders of the day, and devised a way for mankind to tap into God's limitless blessings and abundance. No work or suffering required. It was during those lost years that Jesus devised a dead simple method for humans to manifest all the blessings and abundance they can handle. This was God's plan over 2,000 years ago, but the greediness of mankind ruined the whole thing. Because Pontius Pilate, the governor of Rome who ordered Jesus' crucifixion, took this information and hid it away from the public. Also, they didn't have to share their wealth and abundance with the rest of the world, going against God's plan to bless each and every one of us with the ability to manifest unlimited abundance into our lives. It's part of the reason the Roman Empire was so rich and powerful for so long. But the Romans got greedy, and eventually their great empire collapsed. And the 33 pages documenting Jesus' missing years were lost and forgotten for over 1,500 years, until Marco accidentally stumbled upon that fateful day. But here's the craziest part of all. On page 33 of the secret documents, Jesus actually outlines how to use our internal ability to manifest unlimited abundance from God. Because if there's one thing Jesus made clear, it was that each and every one of us is born with the ability to do so. And it all revolves around something called our superconscious. All you need to do is awaken it. And while I thought that sounded too woo-woo for me, modern science is actually proving this to be true. So here's the thing. Our minds are split into 3 basic parts: conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. Most people know about the conscious mind. The conscious mind involves all the things you are currently aware of and are thinking about. Even the subconscious mind is well known amongst the public. But despite knowing about its existence, scientists are just now starting to understand the subconscious mind. So it's still mostly unknown territory. And then there's the real mystery, the superconscious mind. But this is the most powerful part of our consciousness. And yet almost nobody I talk to has even heard about our superconscious mind. Trust me, there's a reason why. Those who are familiar describe the superconscious mind as the space between our thoughts. But what really drives this home is that the superconscious mind is where our soul is located. And the main reason we aren't taught about this in school or church is the superconscious mind is where your manifestation powers lie. Because each and every one of us is born with the ability to manifest heaven into our lives. Which is why Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." What Jesus was talking about is our ability to manifest abundance directly from God. But it all lies in our superconscious. You just need your superconscious to reach its peak state, Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness is an elevated state that allows us to access the unconditional love of God. And God shows His love through abundance. Not just in the afterlife, in heaven like people think, but with abundance here on earth. Which means your superconscious is a gateway to God's blessings, and an unlimited amount of abundance. But for most people, their superconscious mind is simply asleep, which means it's not active. So most of us don't have access to the powers contained inside of us. That's a major problem, because our superconscious mind is our direct connection with God's abundance. Spiritual awakening and the process of reconnecting with the divine will often awaken the superconscious mind. This state, called Christ consciousness, in and of itself, is divine by nature. When you awaken your Christ consciousness, you connect directly with the divine, God. And that's when you are able to manifest unlimited abundance straight from God Himself, the source of all abundance. But here's the thing. Our superconscious mind isn't located in your brain like most people would think. It's actually located in your spinal cord. Yes, the spinal cord. Our spinal cords are often overlooked, but they are the most important part of our anatomy. Consider this. A normal human spine has on average 33 vertebrae. Again, not a coincidence that the angel number appears here. Your spinal cord is a column of nerves that connects your brain with the rest of your body, and it carries messages back and forth between the brain and the nerves that run throughout the body. But more importantly, it also carries messages to God through your superconscious. And again, the spinal cord is where our superconscious resides. It's where our soul lives. Think of it as an antenna that connects to God, or more specifically, God's abundance. Only problem is that the power to your antenna isn't turned on. That's why you don't currently have that direct connection with God and His abundance. Which is a real shame because we're all born with this abundance antenna, allowing us to reach Christ consciousness. But thanks to a massive cover-up by Pontius Pilate and the Roman Empire, no one knows how to actually turn it on, also known as spiritual awakening. Until now. Because the secret documents found in the Roman ruins reveal the truth. And we know now you can turn on your abundance antenna with virtually no effort, all by using the power of gamma waves. More on that in just a minute. You see, most people these days know we have neurons, information pathways in our brains. But what most folks don't realize is we also have neurons in our spinal cord. It's what makes up our central nervous system. This is key because while modern scientists seem to be obsessed with the neurons in our brains, nobody is talking about the neurons, information pathways, in our spinal cords. But this is where our antenna to God's abundance lies. And when you apply a very specific set of gamma waves to the neurons in your spinal cords, it creates an electric charge which powers up your antenna. It's the way Christ designed for us to manifest God's abundance effortlessly, until the Romans covered it up for their own selfish purposes. And exposing your spinal cord's neurons to gamma waves is as simple as can be, just as Christ wanted it. Because while Christ was in India, He devised an easy but genius way to get these special gamma waves to your spinal cord's neurons, igniting your superconscious and ultimately enabling you to reach Christ consciousness. At this point, I had to stop Marco. I really didn't know what gamma waves were, and they sounded intimidating. But Marco explained that gamma waves have the smallest wavelengths and the most energy of any wave in the electromagnetic spectrum. And gamma brainwaves have the highest frequency among all brainwaves. They are associated with high levels of thought and focus. Modern scientists are able to see this through brain scans. Now just imagine if we could get our superconscious minds to create gamma waves. Well, that's exactly what the secret documents tell us. Because Jesus devised a way to create gamma waves in our superconscious minds. And He did it through the power of sound waves. And it's the sound waves that switch on your abundance antenna in your spine. This is where you reach Christ consciousness and awaken your ability. Now obviously these sound waves have to be at a very specific gamma wave frequency. But right there, on the last page of the documents were two numbers for sound wave frequencies. And boy, were they specific. The numbers had 33 decimal points, so they looked like this. Now those aren't the exact numbers, but you get the idea. Only thing is, Marco didn't understand why there were two different numbers. And he told me he was afraid that if he used the wrong one, it would cause more damage than harm. Meanwhile, he'd spent months reading and rereading the documents trying to understand more. When he told me this, I gazed at Marco astonished. So, you have the specifics for the sound wave frequencies but haven't done anything with them? Marco nodded his head. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We had to take the gamble to know the truth. I told Marco my cousin back in Massachusetts was a sound engineer and could probably whip them up in no time. And while he looked fearful, Marco agreed. I emailed my cousin as soon as I got back to my hotel room. At first, he was astonished by how very specific the frequency was. But then he said he loved a challenge, and besides, he had some brand new state-of-the-art equipment that might just be able to pull it off. And just 33 hours later, I had two different digital sound wave frequencies. I met up with Marco the very next day. He was still hung up on the fact that there were two different frequencies, and it was giving him a ton of anxiety. So in the end, it was up to me to try out the sound wave frequencies. I picked one and played it on my Bluetooth speaker the entire day. Nothing seemed to happen, so the next day I played the other sound wave frequency. I alternated between the two for an entire week, and nothing happened. Well, nothing good anyway. I did get pickpocketed while sightseeing in a popular part of Rome. Plus, my laptop crashed that week, leaving me scrambling to replace it. Oh, and I also got food poisoning and almost died, which actually led to the breakthrough I was looking for. While I was lying in my bed puking my guts out, I actually had a near-death experience, and I saw a vision where I saw Christ on the cross, a beam of light radiating from his spine. And up and down his spine were two lines intertwined with one another almost like an ivy plant. I was feeling better the next day, but I couldn't stop thinking about the vision I had. Did it mean something? Or was I just hallucinating from the food poisoning? After all, I didn't even believe in this stuff. I'd gotten all wrapped up in Marco's story, and now I felt like a fool. And yet the visions haunted me all day long. And as I was starting to doze off that evening, I suddenly jolted awake. As I really started to question why there were two different sound frequencies, it really didn't make any sense. Unless you had to intertwine them, just like I saw in the vision of Christ's spine, which meant listening to the two sound wave frequencies at the same time. It seemed like a long shot, and I wasn't even sure if my brain was functioning properly again. But it was worth a shot, so I emailed my cousin right away explaining my idea. He thought it was pretty cool and suggested a way to properly intertwine the two frequencies, which meant playing each frequency in one ear, so you'd be listening to one frequency in your right ear and the other frequency in your left ear, but at the same time. I thought that actually made sense and told him to go for it. The next morning, I was surprised to wake up to see the new digital soundwave track in my email. My cousin was so excited he stayed up all night to get it done. I played the funky, new intertwined track immediately. A few days later, I received the strangest phone call. As it turns out, I had a long-lost uncle that I never knew about, and he just passed away. The crazy part is he left me $330,000 of his inheritance. I have no idea why, but I was floored. Later that day, I got word that I'd received a scholarship from my university, which meant they were sending a check for $33,000 to cover the semester. I went to dinner alone that evening to think about everything that's happened that day. It was an extravagant meal at a restaurant with a beautiful waitress that always ignored me in the past. But when I asked for my bill, she informed me that a stranger had paid for my meal. Then, as I was about to leave, she slipped me her phone number and said we should hang out sometime. I couldn't believe everything that's happened that day, and suddenly it hit me. I'd reached Christ consciousness. I shared the news with Marco, who was skeptical at first, but agreed to try the intertwined soundwave frequencies. Fast forward a couple weeks later, and Marco experienced the same dramatic turnaround I did. Flush with cash, newfound boundless energy, and a stunning new girlfriend, Marco was a believer. He too had clearly reached Christ consciousness. Everything was going great, but there was just one thing we had to figure out. What do we do with this information? It had already been hidden away from the public for 2 centuries, which went against God's whole plan for abundance. And the world has suffered greatly because of it. So we knew the right thing to do was to share this with others. We started with a few close friends and family members, and one by one, they all reached Christ consciousness, completely changing the trajectory of their lives. Eventually, we knew we had to share this with the public. So I'm thrilled to introduce the Christ Consciousness Code to you right now. It's the simple method devised by Jesus Christ himself during his 18 lost years in India. And it is the only way for you to switch on your abundance antenna in your spine, igniting your superconscious mind, allowing you to reach Christ consciousness, which enables your God-given ability to manifest unlimited abundance directly from God himself. If you've ever wanted to get off the financial hamster wheel you've been stuck on, this is your chance. Because the truth is, God never intended for us to live this way. It's why he gave us a way to awaken our manifestation abilities over 2,000 years ago. Just look around you and see how much everyone is suffering while killing themselves to make a buck. Starting side hustles that drain every last bit of your free time. Paying $100,000 to go back to school just to get a piece of paper. Getting involved with shady crypto schemes and ending up worse than when you started. But none of that is a viable way forward. They all go against God's plan for us. And the best part is, manifesting abundance into your life is effortless. But don't get down on yourself. The ancient Romans created this system to keep us broke and under their power. But now that you know about Christ consciousness, you can join the thousands of other people who use the Christ consciousness code to completely transform their lives. Like Jacob P. from Fort Collins, Colorado. Growing up, I always felt like something was missing in my life, like a piece of a puzzle that I just couldn't find. Discovering the Christ consciousness code was like finding that missing piece. I never realized how much my own thoughts were holding me back from true happiness and success. Now, I'm not only fulfilled but thriving in ways I never imagined possible. It's a life changer. Or like Linda J. from Miami, Florida. I was drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck and constantly stressed. When I first heard about the Christ consciousness code, I thought it was just another gimmick. But desperation led me to try it, and I'm beyond grateful I did. My financial situation didn't just improve, it completely transformed. I went from struggling to make ends meet to owning my own thriving business. Now I do whatever I want, whenever I want. This journey has been nothing short of miraculous. And then there's Kevin D. from Seattle, Washington. I've always been a hard worker, but for some reason, success always seemed just out of reach. I was close to giving up when I stumbled upon the Christ consciousness code. It sounded too good to be true, but what did I have to lose? Turns out, I had everything to gain. My career took off in ways I never dared to dream, and I finally achieved the success that had been eluding me for years. The Christ consciousness code didn't just help me financially, it transformed my entire outlook on life. Okay, so thousands of other everyday people have used the Christ consciousness code to change the course of their life. So we know it works. But the next question I usually get is, how do you actually use the Christ consciousness code? And believe me, you're going to love the answer. Reason is because it is just so damn simple, just as Christ intended it to be. All you have to do is pop in your earbuds or headphones and hit play on your phone or computer. If you can play a song from Spotify to iTunes on your phone, you can use the Christ consciousness code. After that, all you have to do is sit and listen. It's that simple. You just let the Christ consciousness code do all the work. Pretty sweet, huh? And while this is all very exciting news, I do need to warn you about something right now. There are a handful of billionaires who have gotten wind of the Christ consciousness code, and they are not happy about it. Why? Well, they're afraid that if everyone can manifest unlimited abundance directly from God, that they'll lose their stranglehold on the world's wealth, which is the last thing they want. So they've tried to have this site scrubbed from the internet entirely. And I'll be honest with you, I think that they will be successful in the very near future, which means this could be the last day this website even exists. I'm telling you this because you're lucky enough to have stumbled across this life-changing information today. You're so close to changing the very trajectory of your life. I urge you not to let this opportunity slip through your fingers now. So make sure you don't leave this page until you've secured your copy of the Christ Consciousness Code. I've made it my personal mission to get this into the hands of as many everyday normal folks as possible. This certainly isn't about money for me. I have all I'll ever need. I'm looking to fulfill a higher purpose, which is why I'm practically giving away the Christ Consciousness Code right now. It's pretty obvious that I could charge tens of thousands of dollars for something this powerful. But why? The people I want to help don't have that kind of money lying around. Yet. And that would completely derail my mission, my legacy. So if you're interested in getting your hands on the Christ Consciousness Code, and why wouldn't you? All I ask is that you chip in to pay for the costs of running this website. I do have 2 employees I pay, so I have to get a little bit to keep them paid. Which is a no-brainer since you can have access to the Christ Consciousness Code for only $39 today. All you have to do is hit the button that just appeared below this video. When you do, you'll be taken to a 100% secure checkout page where you'll enter your order information. And once you hit submit, your digital access to the Christ Consciousness Code will be emailed to you in about 10 minutes. Plus, you'll also receive 3 free bonuses with your order on this website today. Free bonus number 1, Sleeping Angels soundtrack. With all this talk about our superconscious, I didn't want to overlook another big part of our inner mind, our subconscious. So I had my team create a sleep-inducing soundtrack with subliminal prayers intertwined in them. At first, I was going to sell this digital soundtrack for $47. But with the clock ticking on my life's mission, I decided to give it to you free as a bonus when you get the Christ Consciousness Code today. Free bonus number 2, Blessed Morning Prayer. As much as I love my nighttime routine, the most important part of your day is when it starts. The morning. It sets the tone for everything that's going to happen that day. That's why I created a quick but powerful 10-minute guided morning prayer. It's the fastest and easiest way to make sure your day gets going in the right direction when you wake up. Normally at $39 value, this is yours free when you get the Christ Consciousness Code on this website right now. Free bonus number 3, Divine Prayer Kit. Speaking of prayers, I have one more special treat for you. Because when I was studying theology in an attempt to discredit religion, I actually discovered a handful of prayers that help unlock optimal health, wealth, and romance. There are 33 prayers total, and they're yours free in the digital ebook you'll receive as your third bonus today. So you're getting $119 worth of bonuses free when you say yes to the Christ Consciousness Code today. Pretty sweet, huh? But I've gone even further out of my way to make this a no-brainer for you today. I'm so sure that the Christ Consciousness Code will bring unlimited abundance into your life, that I'm actually going to let you take it on a test drive for an entire year, 100% risk-free, because I'm backing your $39 investment with my 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're not happy with your results at any point over the next 365 days, I'll refund you every penny, no questions asked. Which means there's zero risk on your part when you say yes to the Christ Consciousness Code today. I'm shouldering all the risk here to make sure there is no reason to hold you back from making the right decision for yourself and for your family. So go ahead and click that button below right now to get started. Because let's be clear about one thing right now. It's not your fault that you've had to work hard and suffer all your life. The abilities that Christ created for us were hidden away by greedy people. But now that you know the truth, it doesn't have to be this way anymore. So right now you're at a crossroads in your life, and the path you choose right now will directly affect the trajectory of your life forever. The first choice is to stay on the path you're on. Ignore everyone I've shared with you today, and just keep doing what you've been doing your whole life. But let me ask you this. How's that worked out for you so far? Because if you do that, nothing's going to change. But now you have a second path to choose. It's the path I talked about in this video today, a path that leads to unlimited abundance directly from God, all thanks to the Christ Consciousness Code. So the choice is yours. But again, you need to make your decisions before you leave this webpage today, because there's a good chance it won't even exist from this point forward. So click the button below now. Your future self will be eternally grateful. Thanks for watching and helping me with my mission. Still here? I don't blame you. We covered a lot in today's video. So I'm going to go ahead and answer some of the most common questions that we get about the Christ Consciousness Code. Question: how soon should I expect results? Answer: well, every person is different, so the answer isn't the same for everybody. Some have experienced massive results as soon as the first day. Others have taken months to reach Christ consciousness. I recommend using it every day for a full month before getting too worried about it. Question: I don't go to church or anything. Will the Christ Consciousness Code work for me? Answer: yes. If you have a set of earphones or earbuds, the Christ Consciousness Code will work for you, even if you've never considered yourself religious a day in your life. Question: how come I've never seen the Christ Consciousness Code in the Bible? Answer: Jesus was very careful to keep this project a secret. It was intentionally left out of the Bible, although it was never meant to be hidden or covered up. I made it my life's mission to make this powerful tool available to you today. Question: I'm on the fence about buying the Christ Consciousness Code. Will it still be the same price tomorrow? Answer: while I have no plans to raise the price of the Christ Consciousness Code, I cannot guarantee that this page will be here once you leave today. As I've mentioned, the billionaires do not want this information to be public. If you even think you might be interested, I'd advise you to claim your copy of the Christ Consciousness Code right now while you're on this page. Besides, you're backed by a 1-year 100% money-back guarantee, so you've got nothing to lose because I'm putting all the risk on my shoulders. I told you this was a no-brainer.